Hello everyone, how's everybody doing? Sorry about the long pause. I'm just making sure that I don't have any technical difficulties today. How are you guys? And I'm just making sure everything looks good. I will be critiquing this piece today. And I will be critiquing one short league splash because there's so many to go through, and I have to make sure that I try to get some of them out of the way as I do critiques, which are every Tuesday and Thursday, as you guys know. I can't believe it's Tuesday. I really thought it was Thursday this morning. It's so quiet for a Tuesday. Usually my Tuesdays are insanely busy. But let's get started. So I will be critiquing this piece, and I'll be jumping right into it. And I will be critiquing Battle Cat Jinx and talking about a very obvious issue that some of you may already notice. But we'll be taking a look at that. So before I get started, if you guys want to submit your art for critique, I don't just critique league splashes, by the way. Many of you have discovered me this way through the league splashes. By the way, thank you to everyone who posted a hateful Twitter tweet about my work. You've brought me literally like 3,000 new followers on Instagram. I'm really grateful for the extra exposure. Thank you so much. So go to istebrak.com and click on the subreddit icon right here. That'll take you to the subreddit, and this is where I select pieces from non-league people, okay? People who just post, who just draw. They just draw for themselves. That's how I've always done it. Oh, this is beautiful. So, oh wow, you guys are really killing it. So please go to my subreddit and submit your artwork there. The reason why it's better for you to submit here and not anywhere else is because that way I can just get everything in one go instead of getting JPEGs or zip files, which are a little more dangerous. So if you guys want to just submit your work this way, it's easy for me to grab it. There's almost no quality loss when you guys submit it. And it's easy for everybody to give you critiques as well. So it's a very open, transparent critiquing community. And remember, keep it respectful. If you submit here, it means you are ready to get a critique. If somebody is critiquing you and then you make a separate post about how you don't appreciate being critiqued on a critique channel, it will result in an immediate ban, unfortunately. So I don't like when people antagonize those who are trying to give you critique in a genuine and you know, open critique community about helping people grow. We all make mistakes in our art, and as you guys have seen in the recent critique splashes for the league splash critiques, you guys can see professionals making anatomy mistakes. No one is above community critique. We all critique each other. You guys critique me while I'm live streaming and tell me this looks weird and that looks weird, and I adjust it just as I critique you guys. And we go from there, and everybody learns and gets better. I didn't learn my skill without critique. Everybody needs critique. And so let's get started. This piece is going places. I like your texture for the, oh, hi Magico. I haven't seen you around here for a while. But you can see the texture on the scales. So carefully done, so lovingly done. I can see you're putting a lot of love into this painting. And then you can see the seaweed or the kelp and the hair and the work you put into it. So I can see that you're trying to detail the piece, but you can add tons more detail to this piece, and it will not make it look any more appealing for one really, really big reason. You've hit a ceiling, and that ceiling, you're not going to level up. You're going to keep finding your way, stuck in this level group instead of moving up into intermediate. Maybe you're early intermediate, very early intermediate, or even advanced. You're hitting the ceiling of your current world because you haven't crossed over. This crossing over, this microscopic movement, is addressing the light environment in your illustrations and remembering that there is nothing visible without light. Nothing is drawable, nothing is paintable, nothing, there wouldn't be anything in your world, in the world of your drawing or the world around you, without light. What happens when someone goes blind? And I'm not obviously taking blindness lightly. Their eyes can no longer process light. Light is why we can draw. It's like why we can see anything. It's why we can look at anything. So if you are drawing as if there is no light source in your image, all these photons bouncing around, creating spaces and movement of light, your work is going to look less appealing. You're hitting a wall, you're hitting a limit. And how do we fix this? Well, we have to stop thinking an object like this. Stop thinking in terms of the subject, or subject I should say, and start thinking in the bigger world. What world does she reside in? So let's try to separate her from the background. I'll do my best. It's going to be tricky. So right here, we can see the blue of the background does not communicate with the green of the character. This is a big problem. Why would it not communicate? They are in the same space. So before I get started on the paint over, I got to make sure the background is just nice and tidy. Oopsie. I'm trying to get rid of, I'm just using the stamp clone. Amazing tool. Underrated. Super tool on Photoshop. Look at that. All done. All right. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to position her in a, I'm going to try to leave her in the same exact position just so I can show you how much light does, what role it plays, the light environment. So if you're underwater and you're a sea creature, you are in a heightened version, exaggerated version of what we're doing with just the air in our atmosphere. So if you ever stood on a mountain and looked at the faraway mountains, they look more blue, right? Well, that's the atmosphere. It's literally the color in the air from the atmosphere, from the light moving around that is standing in between you and that object. So you're seeing the air. You're seeing the atmosphere, the humidity, all of it, the particles, all of it. And we call it atmospheric perspective. You go underwater, you times that by however much more water is dense than air. And that's how much thicker that atmosphere is going to be. So you can still call it an atmosphere underwater. And so what does that mean? That means that the colors of our object have to also be influenced by the colors of our environment. So much more so than above ground because it's so much more dense underwater. So just this color correction and value correction has made it so that she looks like she fits in this environment. For you to have these types of greens in your environment to match her, you have to make it look like it's some kind of aquamarine, shallow water green, and with lots of sunlight coming from above. All right, so lots of sunlight that is also simultaneously very yellow. Let's pick color dodge. There we go. That's perfect. It's giving us a nice aquamarine color. And then we give her a little bit more of a silhouette. And we can call it done because now she's silhouetted against her background. and you can fix it up that way. Really, really nice, quick fix. It looks like a character underwater. You've got your environmental silhouette, your light source, and your colors matching. Really quick fix. If you want to do it this way, go right ahead. But I don't want to change the color of your background if I can avoid it. Look at the color you did pick, right? Look, before, after, before, after. This is with just a little bit of consideration for the atmosphere. Before, after. One of these feels like you're looking through a fish tank, and one of these feels like you just painted a character against a completely separate background, like cut out of a magazine or something like that, and you glued it onto a completely different picture from the magazine. Completely different, separated, disconnected, disjointed objects from their environment, or two completely different objects. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue with the color that you picked. Same concept, same exact concept. I'm not doing anything differently. I'm just not changing the background color. I'm going to pick a color for the background that'll help us bring her out of her background. So when you have a character in a background, more often than not, you need to silhouette them. Not because, everything needs to be silhouetted, but because there is a level of transparency in the background, a lace-like atmosphere, versus you, a very, very opaque object. What does that mean? What is an opaque object? It means an object that is so dense it's not letting the light through it. So more often than not, you're going to stand in the way of light moving around, right? If light moves around, again, I give you this the scientific method. If light moves around in tons and tons of innumerable amounts of rays in every direction, okay, tons of photons moving all the time, and rays of light, okay, and then you put one dense object in the middle, what happens? A big chunk of that movement is gone, replaced with the opposite of light, which is shadow. So it's more safe to have your character sitting in a darker value on average than the background than the inversion of that. Because again, more often than not, you're going to be stopping the light from moving. Light likes to keep going, and it disperses and gets less, not visible, but more dispersed, more scattered the further it gets from the source that illuminated it or sent it out. So long story short, just make sure on average, your character is almost always darker than the background. That'll really help you, just give you a good starting point for your values. And then I'm just going to color correct her so she sits a little bit closer to the environment you picked initially. All right, so I'm moving her a little bit closer to blue, and I'm using the background color to colorize her to the background. Small degrees. Remember, I'm moving in very, very low percentages here. And then using the darkness, or let's just try multiply for once. I never really mess with multiply. Darkening her a little bit more. And then I'm going to select her and go back to before I did that. Okay. And then just drop that in there. So now we have 2 layers. Oops, my tablet's not working. 2 layers. I'm zoomed out all the way, and not to annoy you, but because I need to zoom out to make these large quantifications, these large decisions that need to be compared and referenced against the object. You're not going to see much zoomed all the way in. You really do have to zoom out. So again, I'm illuminating the value behind her, showing that there's light moving around. And then I'm darkening her. So this is a good starting place for us. Oops. So then we can start deleting. We can start deleting the character. I'm sorry about my giant brush. We can start deleting at the character. Before I do, my lasso job was abysmal. So let me clean that up real quick. I'll just give her a little bit more booty. Okay, and then merge that down, and then I'll clean up the rest later. So now that I can decide where the light is coming from. So there is light in here, and it can possibly be more yellow. So we can bring in some of that like aquamarine color that I brought in earlier, that turquoise. So I'm gonna put it on color dodge so it can kind of mix in real nice. And then bring in that color again on a giant soft brush. And try to decide where the light is coming from. So I want the light to come in from like behind her to silhouette her a little bit, creating like another little reflection from the bottom, maybe the bottom of the ocean or the ocean floor. Depends on how deep in the water she is, but I'm just going to show how the water is moving inward. And then maybe also like a light ray, just to exaggerate her presence. I can mix it around with different colors. I can bring in a blue in the mix. Let me reduce that actually. I can also bring in some purples into the background, just to throw off the color a little bit, just interrupt it a little. And then now I have all of these on separate layers, and again I'm zoomed out so I can make these decisions with more guidance. And so now we know that there's light behind her, and we know that hair is translucent. Hair, not that it comes translucent, it behaves in a translucent way because it's so many different strands catching the light. So I can delete away any shadow I added to the hair. In fact, I can even add a blue to the color of the hair. So I'm going to use normal so it looks like atmospheric perspective. And in the new layer with lasso engaged, I'm going to use the blue on the hair the further it goes into the distance. All right, so what that's going to do is make it look like the hair is further off, really flowing and creating this distant look to the hair. And then I'll delete away what I don't need, which is what I usually do. Okay. So I'm trying to give the hair a more translucent look. So you can see the steps. All of these steps have nothing to do with the object other than the object's density. All these steps have to do with one big thing, which is the light moving around the scene. All right, so I'm just cleaning up because I don't want to keep lassoing. And so I have this blue here. I can now mess with it a little bit more to show the hair being thrown off into the distance, catching some of that light. Okay, and then we also mixed in some blue in there as well. So then I can now delete away at her tail, because there is going to be some light movement even on the eclipsed side. And deleting away at her tail to find our way back to the original value is really going to help us give her tail more volume and then more color variety. So these are all ways of painting that a lot of you are not taught because you're not exposed enough to it. Thinking of to this level of about atmosphere, it's not something you find a tutorial on more than you find a tutorial on selecting colors or blending or all of these other things. It's a very abstract thing to talk about and very scientific, and sometimes artists don't want to hear about science. Or students, let's say. Students don't want to hear about science, they want to hear about technique. And so, again, you'll find these concepts ignored, left last minute, and then they go bring in, people like me to bring it, to edit and direct this work. And almost always our changes involve the environment. Almost always. And then I think the second most frequent change would be anatomy. And both of those are fields of science. And that's, again, the most neglected aspect of illustration. From my experience, anyway. So I'm just deleting the bad lasso I did. So now that I addressed whatever's translucent, environment, color, and all of that extra stuff, I can start bringing in anything really to add to the design. I feel like the design of the character is lacking a little bit. Like this red thing that you have here, I'm not sure what its purpose is. You know, like it could be something that's glowing so that you have a secondary light and a different color in there. It could be something that is giving you something extra to work with. It's also in the top most unimportant corner of the illustration, a really, really interesting spiral pattern that attracts the eye. So again, what do you want to do with this? You need to move this staff so it's somewhere here. So I think the original sketch as well is just not placed in a good spot and not promoting, you know, like a composition that'll keep us looking at the center of the painting. Our eyes are leaving the center of the painting a lot in this illustration because there's nothing here. These are the most important spots in a canvas this size. This is where most of the action needs to happen, but you have it all here and here. That's problematic. This is not where the focal point needs to be. This is where the focal point needs to be, because this is where we will most likely look. Humans are very attuned to frames or boxes. They look for the center. It's just how we work. It's how our brain looks for signals, you know, centers of targets, anything like that, patterns. So we need something that promotes the human eye to stay and linger in the painting and not drift off and leave the painting. So again, there's all these different things that you could be correcting that'll help you with making this painting more appealing. And it doesn't just end at the composition. I mean the lighting. I think that some of the issues that you have here have a lot to do with the character's design itself, the character's design. So I mean, there's so many things I could do right now. There's a lot of changes I could start throwing on, but I think if I were your teacher or if I were your art director, I would immediately tell you to go back to the drawing board and start the illustration again, but this time really think about how this is going to play in a composition, how you're going to stage this character. I think you have a good design for the upper part of the body. I really think you needed to move her somewhere here, which again, I feel like is just like the better spot. And then I think you should rethink her environment. What else is around her? She seems like a queen of something. Would there not be her kingdom, some kind of extra plant life, something else you could sketch that could bring her out? And of course, there's her staff. And the color of the staff, which I recommend you rethink, because that peachy skin-like tone, it's literally just right there in the skin tones, is not doing well in this environment. I think that if you cooled it down a little bit, it might make a bit more sense. Like if you brought in a magical purple color or something like that, that could all really benefit what you have going on. So let me cool it down with some purple. And also select the background environment. And what we're trying to do is just harmonize the colors, okay? And if we harmonize the colors, we'll be at a higher appeal. There'll be more appeal in the illustration. And then what we could do is think about secondary light source. If you are going to bring secondary light source, you can sacrifice some of the other light sources in the background. So you can move this one this way, and that way you are in complete control of all of the composition elements. You can move all of them. Once you do that, you can darken the scene, because whenever you have glowing candle-like objects of any kind, you need to make sure the environment is dark enough to host them. And then you start bringing in your secondary light source. And that's when things will start popping. So you can start bringing in a secondary light source, and that's going to help revive some of these colors are not quite suited for each other, but just for the demonstration. They'll start reviving some of the volume that's missing because you're painting like laterally, I think I could say, like you're painting from left to right, really dark to light. There's no stop. There's no radial voluminous type of shading. Like you're not exploring the width or the volume or the weight of every single one of these forms. You're only shading from left to right, which keeps it all feeling very, very flat, not a very realistic world. And so I put this on a separate layer just so we can explore different colors. Like for instance, now we have this bounce light. It wouldn't travel all the way down like that. Now we have all this bounce light, or not bounce light, ambient light or indirect light moving around. And you can change the color until you like find something, or like it until you find something that you feel like suits your character. Ooh, that green is amazing. And so that green would be very, very suitable for her. And it kind of harkens back to the colors you started with at the start of the illustration. So we can make that green. And then to make it more appealing, I'll mix that blue. I'll mix some blue in there. And that's a good spot. That's a good spot for us. And now we need to just bring in some of that green into the environment because this light is emanating. And so it's going to introduce some of itself into the immediate landscape. But we still have that blue that you had earlier. And so I'm going to get rid of that extra hair you have at the top because it's really collapsing over the crown, which you put so much effort into. Right? So this crown is very detailed, and then you just have this big lump of nothing surrounding it. So that's problematic. So let's get rid of that and pick a shape for the hair that complements the design around you. So I'll just go ahead and just completely get rid of that and then get rid of all of this. Right? And so now we have all of this extra space up here, which is nice. And then let's see if I can move her. So I'll just move her up here somewhere. And then we think about, again, her position against the background. You can darken the hair, create an even more, while also keeping it kind of, creating some breakage in between the hairs so it doesn't look like fabric. You can darken the hair the further back it goes because it's denying both the background light and that secondary. So let's do that. And then you can bring in some kind of rim light from the environment. So this bluish white, again, sorry about my giant brush, and throw that in there. Nope, just give me my brush. Okay. And that'll kind of start to bring in some of the environment color. None of the environment is playing any role on this character. There is no universal light. We can see her, but why? And the staff can't be why we see her. We just added the staff. So why can we see her? What's making it possible for us to see her? There's light moving around in this world. And so I'm putting in some bounce light on the bottom of the tail. I'm putting in some here. Then I'm going to throw in some like surface disturbance in the water. Maybe there's like this mound of land behind. Okay, what brush am I using for this? Darken. There's this like bunch of land maybe behind her, blocking some light. And then there was that initial light we added. And I could change its color to match the environment a little bit more. And so slowly but surely, things start to look a little bit more acceptable. Let me merge those down. Oh. we have some of the hair left over here. Okay. So I haven't touched the character yet. I haven't painted anything on the character yet at all. This has all just been strictly environment stuff. I'm trying to keep it close to the original artist's design. And so that's what's missing here, okay? So remember the light moving around in your world. There's a reason why she's visible. Don't forget to paint it in. And you can do exactly what I did. I mean, I didn't bring it in right away. I critiqued it in. So you can do that with yourself as well. You can just paint what you need, put on all your colors, get everything situated, have something, make it exist first. You guys remember that? Make it exist and then correct it, okay? And so you can bring in, you can dress it up. You can dress your character up with more environmental lighting. But in this case, especially so, because this is underwater. Underwater means we're going to have tons and tons of environmental conditions applied to the hair, to the skin, to the fabric, to the textures. Oh, there's so much. There's so many opportunities to bring in atmosphere. Because it's underwater. It's like there's particles, there's underwater life, there's reflected light, trapped light. It just goes on and on. And I'm just going to give her tail some shine. But if I were to diagnose you specifically right now, your current skill level, and give you some advice, outside of the stuff you've discovered on your own today. So this is one big masterpiece that you're attempting. You're attempting to paint an entire illustration, right? I really recommend you stop doing that for a little while. You will eventually go back to it. It's only natural. We want to build scenes. We want to build worlds. You'll go back to this. But I'd like for you to stop, because I know this is, I wouldn't ask you to stop unless I know it's going to make you an amazing artist one day. Stop. Stop painting illustrations and start studying. Study anatomy. Study, you seem to be into pinup art. Study the torso. Study the face. Study eye anatomy. Study some textures. Study some objects and environment. You have a lot of studying to do. And the reason why it's more optimal for you to do studies and less environments or less illustrations or masterpieces is because how long does it take you to finish a masterpiece? Quite a while, right? But how long does it take you to finish a study before you move on to the next study? Not that long. Maybe once a week you do a study. You clock in more art mileage doing studies than you do masterpieces, because masterpieces eat so much time. You spend months on one, you don't move on to the next subject. You're actually just circling the drain when it comes to doing only masterpieces. Believe me, it's how I used to be. It's how I used to do it. I never stopped and studied. And the moment I realized, hey, I'm not going anywhere with this shit. I need to stop and start understanding what the heck I'm actually doing. Not accidentally draw well, but intentionally draw well. Once I did that, my whole world changed. I started knowing what I was painting more clearly and making more informed decisions. So that's what I would like for you. I'd like you to also experience a big explosive boom in your skill. And you have the, you have the inspiration, you have the storyteller. It's clear. All illustrators are storytellers at heart. And I think that it's not benefiting you just focusing on this specific shit right now. You need to, you need to do a little bit more in regards to, one second, I'm trying to figure this out. In regards to studies. Get those mistakes out of the way. Get that mileage out of the way. All right? Don't just focus on one little drawing for expand, bring in more diversity. Bring in more of subject matter. I'm using the background color to bring in some color behind on the hair. All right, and what that's going to do is make it feel like the hair is just thrown off into the distance. It's not like attached to her. And that's going to help me figure out her silhouette a little bit more clearly against the background, because it was really fighting against the hair. The hair was just like this big draping thing that was in the way. Okay, so I'm almost done with this one, and then I'll take a look at Battle Kitten. I'm just like, my skin's crawling. Battle Kitten. I hate when anybody calls a woman a kitten. Jinx. All right, so let me just complete this. Or Battle Cat or something. I hope it's Battle Cat. It's Battle Cat. There you go. And so I'm just, again, looking at my navigator. What's my navigator need? It needs a little bit more of that. Sorry, that's my bird. She's like, it's game time. You better be done. It's 6 o'clock and I am restless. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. Let me show you the before and after. Before I do, I'm just going to bring in some darkness on the far side of the staff since it's only glowing in one section. Deselect. Come on now, brush, really? I'm just going to darken the far side of the staff because it's not glowing on the crescent of the staff, just along the middle. And then I'm going to give it some of that glow, maybe with color dodge, along the interior of the staff. Something you would have learned in a form study environment, but you're not learning these things because you're too busy painting illustrations and you're not focusing on building real mileage, actual mileage, mileage that makes you like an amazing artist. That mileage is found. A lot of mileage is found in illustrations, but only later in your journey. Most of that mileage is found in the study lab environment. So I'm going to put it on light and maybe soft light. I always loved soft light. It's so sweet, so gentle. And then light, I think I'll do lighten because it's a little bit more of an intense scene. All right, so I will show you the before and after. There are many other things I could do before I close this critique. Like I could close off the top of the illustration. Nothing's happening. I never really added any environment. So I'm going to close off the top of the illustration, the bottom of the illustration, trying to stay true to what you selected here, but also obviously there's a limit of how much I can pull off. I forgot to add the forest floor on this side, sea floor on this side, just to expand the environment of where it seems like the way that she's standing, seems like she landed on the sea floor. Do you know what I mean? And then, so this was all just environment. This whole critique was only about one thing. And then I'm going to darken her tail. Sorry, I keep thinking I'm done and then I'm not. Actually, I'll just use burn. Good old burn on shadows. Just to get that tail tucked away into the edge of the canvas. It doesn't need any extra light. It's just disappearing. So let's flatten the image and take a look at the before and after. This was a lesson on environment. Okay, so before, after, before, after, before, after. There were real decisions made for atmosphere today. We went through a lot of decisions. We changed the background value. Okay, and then we adjusted the color of the object to the environment. We matched her color to the background, and then we lightened the background and darkened her, and we made sense of that by understanding what lighting does, what light does, period. Then we selected another light to make it interesting. You can't just have one non-existent light source illuminating everything. So we added a new light. That light gave us an opportunity to show off the other side of the body, the other side of the cylinder, the other side of the sphere, bring in more volume. And then some decisions for environment here and there. I cropped the hair. You can see how it was just, it really didn't need it. The hair looked weightless enough. And then of course there's the anatomy issues, which I don't have time to address, but I really suggest that you stop, drop, and do some studies, okay? All right, moving on. Save, yes. So, completely different painting. This is a product, by the way. This is a product. You pay for this. You pay for this skin. So consider this a product review, all right? Because the amount of vitriol and hatred that has been pouring my way from the league community is unbelievable. But again, I'm more than ready for it. It's why I do these. I don't shed a single tear reading those hateful comments. They give me strength. But remember, this is a product review. So, Handy Dandy Portrait Studio is already geared and ready to go. What is the problem? The problem is the hand. Let me tell you why. This hand has only one joint, okay? On connecting the hand to the arm. One joint. And it's right here. And there's only so much this poor little joint can do before it looks wrong. All right? So she doesn't look like she's leaning all her weight. So let's imagine someone doing a plank. All right? It's not me. It's not me doing the plank. All right, so let's imagine someone doing a plank, right? And they're putting all their weight on the hand. This joint is really doing a lot of work. Have you ever done a plank? Or is it a plank? It's a plank, right? Right, guys? I don't know what it's called when you do this. It's a plank. Whatever. You are experiencing most of the struggle on your legs, your thighs, trying to keep this all tensed up, keeping your stomach and butt up. And this little guy, this is carrying all your weight. So if she was planking and her hand was doing this, I'd understand. I'd put my hands up and say, fine. But she's not planking, y'all. She's not doing a plank. Okay? So what's explaining this extreme, almost 90-degree angle? This is a 90-degree angle. All right, we're looking at very close to a 90-degree angle. This is not natural for the hand. It looks like the hand is coming out this way. It looks like a whole hand and a whole arm from a completely different body emerging from space. So let me show you where this hand belongs. This hand belongs to an arm that's doing something like that. Okay? Do you see how natural the joint is emerging from this hand? Do you see how natural that looks? Once again, I ask you to take a look at the original. This hand here, right here, perfect. It's perfect for this arm. It's absolutely perfect, okay? So it's going to match perfectly with the joints moving in together. One joint leads to another, looks very natural. I'm going to select their own values here and build up the arm. And then select one of these environmental colors, like any of these good old colors. And build up the arm. Okay, and then I'm just gonna like select this nearby bounce light to give this arm some volume. And then select this one here to give this side some volume. All right, so this makes a lot of sense for this arm, wherever it could have come from. But we look at Portrait Studio and we can see that exact same angle. We need to duplicate this effect, this natural effect, but this way. So this arm right here, let me change layers. This arm should be what Jinx was doing. Blop. Okay. Same hand, same gesture. I didn't do anything else. I didn't change anything else in the illustration. All I did was just move her hand. And you can see how unnatural that hand looked. All right, so a lot of you guys requested this one, and I left it, you know, a little bit later. So this again, this is what this hand looks like. It's coming from in the original. Do you see that? It felt like there was a character reaching out. So it's rotating this way. So I'm just trying to perfectly overlap it. Do you guys see that? It doesn't look right. Again, because of the way that these league people talk, I'm literally going to just overlap it. And a lot of them refute what I do by saying, oh, you can exaggerate whatever you want. It's art. It's not. It's not that easy to you can't exaggerate anything you want. No, that's not how it works. Because there's a level, there's a line you cross, which ends up becoming abstract, which ends up becoming like Picasso. You know, it's no longer recognizable or representational. Representational is kind of part of the mix. You can't have this style without realism. Realism, there is realism in this formula. And so artists and non-artists, mostly artists, notice this issue. If you don't notice the issues I've been pointing out in these league splashes, you just don't have the skill to see it. That's honestly the hard truth. You don't like that truth, I'm sorry. You don't have the skill to see it. But artists with skill, even intermediate skill, like intermediate is really good. Even beginner skill artists can see it. Later beginner, early intermediate can see it. These issues. So again, like I showed you, the fix that is the most reasonable would be this one, the one that I just showed you guys. So I'm going to get rid of the hand. I'll save it. And I'm just gonna select this. Smack it right on top. And then, excuse me, my throat's getting dry. And then I'm just getting rid of it. Getting my handy dandy stamp clone, whatever it's called. And merging that down. A little bit art fatigued. I've been doing a lot of art lately and I am feeling it. Art fatigue is no lie. And I'm just trying to get rid of the hand in a more easy way. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and smack that hand right back. I don't know why I'm talking like this. And I'm going to place it somewhere where it makes sense. I'm going to delete away at this stuff here. Speaking of smacking, please smack that like button for me. Thank you so much. I need the followers. I'm struggling. And so now the hand is in a better position. I'm going to go ahead and sever it from whatever that is. And position it in a more agreeable spot. And then just put that glove or gauntlet, I think it is, gauntlet, right? And I'm just going to put that on top. Turn that off, and now it looks a little bit more acceptable because it doesn't look uncomfortable. And here's a big clue. Some of you have mentioned how you feel a literal like release when you see me do these critiques. I can tell you why that happens. We're naturally, all of us have a certain level of empathy. And so when you're looking at a very odd looking gesture that doesn't look quite natural, there's a reason for that. You actually feel the discomfort that's required in order to pull off that movement. So that's the same reason, the same empathy is also why we move our faces in funny ways when we're painting extreme expressions, I do that anyway. And so again, I'm just matching it to a more comfortable position to this joint right here. So it just looks like it's just coming out of the hand. I haven't touched the hand. And to show you what you'd have to do to this hand to imitate that same movement, you'd have to do that. Okay? This is an extreme motion. Let's get her sister out of the way. All right. See that? That's intense. It's not natural. Okay, so I'm just gonna hide the joints so you can see what they did. All right, and so let's take a look at the before and after. Again, I'm just moving the hand back to emerge, to project from the elbow. The elbow is causing that whole motion. So we're before, poor girl, after. Before, after. All right, so I want to make it, I'm kind of a perfectionist, and I really want to like get that same kind of softness in the background. But anyway, I digress. Before, after. Nerf Aurelia. Please don't ruin Aurelia. Someone said do Divine Aurelia next, but I don't see what's wrong. Please don't ruin. Ruin it in what way? What do you mean by ruin? Why would I ruin anything? I'm not here trying to ruin anything. I'm here just showing you guys what you guys are noticing. You guys are asking me what's going on. Okay, so yeah, I hope this was helpful. Either way, the whole arm is not really making sense, because we should be seeing the inside of the palm. We should be seeing a rotation in the hand anyway. So this very same hand is not positioned right. It should be doing something a little bit more rotated and open and exposed, something like that. That feels a little bit more natural to the gesture. If you guys really like, the thumb should be in front. All of that stuff of the inside of the palm should be tucked away. So we would be seeing the back of the palm. We would be seeing the thumb in front of the palm. We'd be seeing a little bit more of that inward rotation. Right here, the thumb, it feels like we're closing in on a profile view of the hand, because we're seeing the inside of the arm all the way through, and we're not seeing the inside of the hand enough. So it'd be a little bit more reasonable to put the thumb in that position. But that's where exaggeration can come in, and you can say, oh, okay, well, that's just cartoony. That's the cartoony influence in the formula. Okay. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you notice what the issue is. I can't believe a mistake like this even exists in art of this caliber, but it is what it is. Sometimes it happens. This hand is great. This hand looks wonderful. But again, what's going on? Question mark, not check mark. What's going on there? And that's it. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate you guys coming out to the live streams. If you guys want me to critique your work, all you have to do is go to istebrak.com. The posing program you saw me use today is available on my store, istebrak.com. Go to my store. It's right there. It's Portrait Studio. And then you can go to the subreddit icon right here. I also have a public Discord where you can submit your work for critique. It's about critique and growth in this community of mine. All right. We don't worship. We don't do anything like that. It's not a cult. It's not a fan world. It's just a very, very, knowledge saturated group. It's all about that. And it's about helping each other grow, critiquing each other, pure honesty, no ego. And that's the community I like to be in. And that's the community I built. So thank you everyone for coming. I'll see you guys on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you do have requests, all your comments are being deleted once I upload this stream. Comment on Instagram or comment on the Discord somewhere permanent so that I can see your request for these League Splash critiques. Thank you everyone. Bye.